Welcome to Donington Park. It's round 2 of the Thundersport GP Championships for 2017, and time for the Thundersport Superteens. Once known as the Aprilia Superteens, the class now allows in a number of different manufacturers. The Kawasaki's, of course, are eligible to race here. The KTM's as well, that you'll see in the KTM Cup. We have Aprilia 125 production motorcycles, and then, of course, new couple of years back, the Aprilia RRV 450R. Which is half the power of the 450, and it seems to be just as competitive and on the money as the 125s. Now, last time out we saw the Kawasaki's dominant, but we did see a really good battle between Kawasaki's and some of the 125s as well. There is an unfamiliar name in terms of the Superteens out on the grid though for this one, who was a race winner twice yesterday. Not unfamiliar to us at Thundersport GB. Syd, Matt Rangeley is out there, number 93, leading this one on the 450R.
Yes, well, of course, he qualifies as a super teen. I mean, he's 17 years old. I mean, it's so he's, you know, he's quite equipped to be there. There's nothing wrong with that, but he's in there because we asked him to be honest. And it was after Brands Hatch when it looked like the Kawasaki's had run away with it, and a few people mentioned it looks like that the Kawasaki is going to be the only thing to be on. But as we explained to all of those people that mentioned that, you know, well, it depends on the pilot, it depends on the circuit, and we'd looked around and seen that, you know, it was horses for courses. Some bikes are better at this circuit and not at that circuit, and so on and so forth. Also, a lot of these lads are new to sort of quality large circuit racing, and so, you know, they can't be experienced. So what we wanted to just prove once and for all was to put Matty Rangeley, who obviously is reasonably experienced for his age, for his young years, on a 450R, which belongs to Ian Newton in competition, just to show that an experienced pilot will be just as good on that Aprilia 450R as a Kawasaki 300. And to be fair, just to make the point even more, Matthew Bauer, for example, on his KTM in the KTM Cup at BSB at this very circuit, there was only a 10th difference between his lap times on his KTM 390 and here at his 450R. So there really is no difference, and we just wanted to prove that point.
Well, Matt Rangeley, of course, is a regular podium visitor in the 450s. He's, in the last couple of years, a race winner as well, so he's just proving the point here that races can be won on the 450R. And Matt Bauer seems to have benefited from that time spent on the KTM here. Speaking of KTMs, there you can see number 64, Liam Bassett. Nice to see that there is a bit of an equal playing field. As we head onto the back straight, it is Matt Rangeley that has the advantage, number 93. Just up behind him then, you have 102, Charlie Farrer, who was second in the championship coming into this round. Just going up the inside of him now, though, is number 78, Matt Bauer, who was fourth in the championship after Brands Hatch. Leading the championship was Scott Ogden, so look out for number 19. He's just at the back of this group. There you can see him, and the black Kawasaki, number 19. He was leader of the championship. Now, yesterday here, Matt Rangeley won both races from Farrer and Ogden. Bauer finished third in race 1, and Farrer finished third in race 2. I presume, Syd, that it's a bit of a one-off thing here with Matt Rangeley. It's not going to be a regular occurrence, but it is just like a case in point.
No, I mean, somebody, I heard some echoes in the paddock last night that he was trophy hunting, but that's not the case at all. And he's doing it for us. And I know that at the end of last year, the second half of last year, he was doing very well podium-wise on a full-power 450. But you do have to remember that it's what the Superteens are for. I mean, you can be, if you're at the right age, you can come back to this. And I think, for example, I've got a funny feeling from what I've heard that Nick Edgley, in actual fact, although he's been on a full-power 450, I think for Snetterton, he's coming back to the Superteens. I think he's having his 450 converted to a 450R. So, you know, and it's a good thing to fall back. It's what the Superteens are all about. It's about the learning curve. Don't push yourself too early or your child too early. You know, it's what this particular class is for. It's what it's all about.
Further back there you see and hear the 125 production motorcycle still in action. Chris Moffat's there, but at the front it's still Matt Rangeley from number 102, Charlie Farrer. Matt Rangeley certainly proving a point at this moment in time, as is Matt Bauer. That 450R is more than capable of coping with the Kawasaki's here of Charlie Farrer and Scott Ogden, both of them who of course were so dominant back at Brands Hatch. On that particular weekend, the opening round of the season, another Aprilia was going pretty well. That was 21, as you just saw there in the middle of those two bikes. Franco Bourne picked up a big haul of points at Brands Hatch. He's just slightly off the pace here. He's at the moment having a bit of a battle with Jake Clark, number 13, and Jodie Fieldhouse. She's on the Go Pink Racing, number 18 then, the pink and black Aprilia. But it's Matt Rangeley then that has this advantage, up ahead of 102, now 19, up into third. Scott Ogden got past Matt Bauer. Sid just pointed out Matt Bauer mixing this Thundersport Superteen Championship with the KTM Cup at British Championship level. Same could be said for the Verwey brothers as well, although they are not racing here this weekend.
Yes, they are in the 450s.
Oh, they're in the 450s.
Yeah.
But they were in the Superteens at Brands.
Yes. Yeah. But another thing worth pointing out here is that with that Dorna British Talent Cup, which is to be launched in 2018, which is getting a lot of attention because of John McPhee's antics, doing very well, and well done to John and the team, of course. But this will be one of the places that the likes of Jeremy McWilliams will come looking. You know, he won't look in the upper classes, he'll be looking here. So if you want to get spotted for things like the British Talent Cup, this is still the place to be.
Yeah, of course, it won't be an awful lot of good unless you enter, though. You know, you have to enter to get in. It's not a case of you get picked for the selection process.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
No, yeah, you actually have to enter it. I mean, if you don't enter it, it doesn't matter how talented you are. So, you know,
you mean like throwing your hat into the ring?
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
Okay, yeah,
so
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
my message to all of these racing at the moment, and any that are racing in Thundersport Superteens, is get your name in to enter. I'll get more details on that for you at Snitterton, actually, because the entry process opens in May. You have to put in an entry, and I think it's open for about a month. Then I believe, I don't know, at the moment it's a bit of grey area as to if you enter, is there a level that you have to be at to actually then be into the selection process. But I would rather fancy that the vast majority of riders that entered from this particular class at the moment would have a good chance at then attending the selection event at Silverstone, which will be the same week as the MotoGP event at Silverstone. And then obviously the likes of Jeremy McWilliams, Alberto Puch and a few other spotters as well will select the riders from that and in. So yeah, you may well be an incredibly talented rider, but unless you enter the actual process, then there won't be. I mean, like, you may well be right. Jeremy McWilliams will probably be watching some of these guys, so that when he does get the entries in, he can say, okay, well look, XYZ have been racing at Thundersport Superteens, they've been going well, they're in. Because at the moment there's a very fine line. One of the questions on the launch for the British Talent Cup was, you know, can you enter without any experience at all? Because at the moment, what's stopping you from actually entering the process? There is going to be a line where you either get picked or you don't for the selection process, but I would be very surprised if many of the Thundersport Superteens were not considered if they were to put their hat into the ring.
No, that's good, and I think it's a very exciting prospect. It's a move forward, isn't it?
Last lap flag is out here. Matt Rangeley doing the job on his Aprilia RRV 450R. Half the power of the 450 available, and just proving here to the rest of the field that, you know, it can be won on an Aprilia 450R.
But it's worth pointing out the lap record by Max Cook, who was on an Aprilia 125, 150.9. And they haven't got down to that yet, and they're half a second away from that. So, you know, there's still some room for improvement, even from Matty.
Of course, that's not to say that we're trying to put people off from necessarily entering on Kawasaki's.
No.
But we are just trying to prove that it's not just going to be a one-horse race all season long.
You saw them on the Dunlop straight there. Apart from the slipstreaming, they were almost identical power-wise. That, you know, and it's the same as the 390 KTM. There is nothing between these bikes, Steve. The only one that develops the power in a completely different way is the 125 two-stroke. But I'm just saying that also is capable of being fast, because at this very circuit it holds the lap record. That was all I meant.
Fastest lap of the race is Charlie Farrer, who, let's be honest, in this final couple of laps has closed down on Matt Rangeley, but I think he's run out of time ultimately. Scott Ogden is still in third place.
Very close, look, he is.
He is incredibly close, but the checkered flag is waiting, and unless there's a mistake here from Rangeley, it should be done and dusted. Here we go. Checkered flag out. Matt Rangeley wins it then, the Superteen race here at Donington Park. Second place for Charlie Farrer. Wait a few seconds then for Scott Ogden. He will take third. And then there is Matt Bauer, who will cross the line on his Aprilia on the MD Racing machine to take fourth. Who's in for fifth? It's a close one here between these guys. A great effort from Franco Bourne there, but of course the grunt and torque there of that 450R just got him on the line. Close indeed. It was Jake Clark that got fifth ahead of Franco Bourne. Jody Fieldhouse just misses out on the top six there, with Liam Barrett in 8th and Jake Hart 9th, Cameron Hall in 10th. There's your top three then: Rangeley, Charlie Farrer and Scott Ogden. And we will be back with race 2 in just a few moments.
Okay, so last month we talked about the Golden Era Supersport and Golden Era Steel Sport, and how you can get into racing very cheaply as an adult, and how you can have a great deal of fun with it. It doesn't have to be a career path. Now we're looking at the other end of the scale, and the kids that are actually going to be stars in the future. You know, the people that are going to go to GPs, Cal Crutchlow, Casey Stoner, people like that. They all started in youth series of one kind or another. Those riders started in the Aprilia Superteen Championship. The RS125 has been the staple of youth racing for probably 20 years now, but the last couple of years there's been a couple of other alternatives as well, which are very valid, very good. There's the Kawasaki Ninja Cup, which started as the 250 Kawasaki Cup and is now the Team Green Challenge, which runs with BEMC, and Sid will put the email URL along the bottom of the screen here for you to look up the details on it, www.bemc.net. Obviously Aprilia Superteen Challenge is apriliachallenge.net, and now the 450R, which is the restricted version of the 450 GP bike, which is also available for 13-year-olds to ride. So at 13 you can ride one of these on a novice licence, at 13 you can ride one of these on a novice licence, and at 12 you can ride one of these on a novice licence. And a lot of people phone us up in the office and ask us about what's the best thing for their child to do. And there is no correct answer to that, because they're all good championships. There's also the KTM 390 Cup, which has been running under the Santander banner for the last couple of years. That's another bike. It's a 390cc single-cylinder bike, and you can start on that as young as 13 years old on a novice licence.
Time for race 2 then in the Thundersport Superteens. There is Charlie Farrer, number 102, finished second in race 1 behind Matt Rangeley, who was out just to show what the 450R Aprilia could do. Well, Matt Rangeley not out on circuit for this one. So can anyone close down on those two Kawasaki's of Farrer, number 102, and Scott Ogden, number 19 here? Someone's pulled over on the right there, one of the Aprilias. Is that Franco Bourne? Franco Bourne, is that maybe not possibly struggling to get away as he has to watch the rest of the pack fly down towards turn 1? We'll get confirmation of that in a minute. I'm just looking back further through the pack. Yeah, it is Franco Bourne. Poor old Franco. Hopefully he'll get the bike started in just a moment as they all head down into turn number 1. Number 20 there, just going through, is Jack Hart with the yellow wheels on an Aprilia 125. But it is Farrer on that Kawasaki that leads from number 78, Matt Bauer. Third place for number 19, Ogden. And then it's Jake Clark, number 13, there in 4th. Jody Fieldhouse is 5th, number 18. 6th for the 125, just up the inside there of Jody Fieldhouse for the number 8, Cameron Hull. So then, through Schwantz Curve we go. Farrer off to a brilliant start with no Matt Rangeley there. He's not got an Aprilia right in front of him or in his way. Just looking further back to see whether or not... I understand Franco Bourne has got underway. But he's
probably just bogged it, Steve. I mean,
easy to do.
Yeah, as you probably can well remember, it's. But if you've not been used to a two-stroke, it's ever so easy to get them oiled up and flooded up. You have to keep them buzzing the whole time, or they will just like you'll open the throttle and it'll die.
So Farrer leads from Matt Bauer and Scott Ogden that you're looking at there, breaking now into the Melbourne Loop. Farrer in the early stages here of this race, looking like the classy rider, as we just see another brilliant move there from number 8. Not afraid on the brakes is Cameron Hall, Cameron Lee, former 450 rider with us, of course. Cameron Hall there, some great last minute braking from him. Farrer leads then from Matt Bauer and Ogden. Then it's Jake Clark.
Did you see Franco Bourne siding through the back of the pack there? He just overtook about 5 bikes in one go.
Well, he's obviously trying to make up for lost time. There is Cameron Hall, number 8, just going underneath there, the KTM of Liam Bassett. And there is Ogden, the championship leader after the opening round at Brands Hatch, now moving up ahead of Matt Bauer, although he might have a job on his hands trying to close down on race leader Charlie Farrer. Up through McLean's we go. Matt Bauer looking for another podium. 4th in the championship coming into this weekend, but Franco Bourne, of course, was up ahead of him. He might just overtake him in the championship with the troubles that Franco's encountered so far in this one. There's number 74, another of the KTM riders, Jake Aldridge. But it's Farrer here, number 102, rider from Easington, on his Kawasaki 300. That just seems to be, well, he's lapping 3/4 of a second quicker than anyone else at the moment. Matt Bauer keeping Ogden very honest indeed on his Aprilia. These two having a proper scrap here. Matt Bauer didn't quite make it onto the podium in race 1. He finished 4th. Of course, Matt Rangeley went on to win that one. There's Jody Fieldhouse, number 18. Further back there is number 20, Jack Hart, Harry Lee, Jake Hopper, Jake Aldridge as well. No sign of Franco Bourne.
Do you notice though, Steve, like, I mean, the conditions are identical really to race 1, and yet because Matty Rangeley's not out there, Charlie Farrer doesn't need to go as quick, and so therefore he's like about a second, just over a second slower per lap. That just gives you some idea about what we're talking about, and the way some people can be dragged round or go much faster in actual fact than than it looks they can.
Yeah, it's interesting as you see here a retirement for Cameron Hall. It's the end of his race by the looks of things. Having a look around on his bike, but he's up and okay. A mechanical failure for him. Yeah, we saw it in the Superteens, didn't we, with Max Cook and with Connor Tagg when he rode on the 450R.
Well, that was indeed when he set that lap record, wasn't it? He was being dragged round by, an experienced guy on a 450R when we were testing them, and that 450R at the time wasn't getting any points. But just because he's being dragged round, a 125 two-stroke Superteen bike go and sets a lap record.
Ogden there, affording a look over his shoulder. Matt Bauer's still there, and he's going to prove it to him right now, and so that's cost Ogden. Your classic look over the shoulder technique that one day will be eradicated from the sport, I'm sure, when people finally realise that you can do nothing other than lose time. But out front, you're quite right about Charlie Farrer. He doesn't need to push the boat out here. He doesn't need to do anything too silly. He certainly doesn't need to ride on the ragged edge. So, yeah, Farrer clear then, out front. It is Bauer in second place now, ahead of Ogden. 450R, standing toe-to-toe with the Kawasaki 300. How pivotal could these final moments of this race be for these guys? Every point counts. 4 races per weekend for the Thundersport Superteens across the 9 rounds of the championship, and we have seen championships won by a single point before now in the Superteens over the years. Certainly the most memorable for me anyway has to be, I might struggle with the year now, 11 or 12 I think it was, and it was Tom Oliver who just lost out on the championship to Joe Francis by the narrowest of margins. A single point and a cigarette paper, I think, across the line. But at the moment, Charlie Farrer is going to be the man to beat. He'll surely lead the championship after this. Yesterday's races, he was 2nd and 3rd. So Scott Ogden won't be too far behind, but Ogden here, he could certainly reduce the damage done if he's able to finish in 2nd ahead of Matt Bauer. Never know, it might be a surprise in the standings, but I think Farrer will be just leading them. Here is Jake Clark a bit further back. It's Jodie Fieldhouse, she's just behind him. That's the battle for 4th place. In fact, Jodie Fieldhouse at the moment is lapping about a second quicker than Jake Clark per lap, so that might change very shortly. Matt Bauer still in 2nd here ahead of Scott Ogden. I suppose that is going to be the interesting dynamic for these bikes, and seeing how they all fare at the different circuits, Sid, because they are all wildly dramatic, aren't they, in terms of their comparisons and differences. Snetterton is up next, but that is not your ordinary circuit. That's completely different to Brands and Donington. You've then got, after that, Cadwell, Mallory, Rockingham, Anglesey, Alton.
All different in their own way, and that is the thing. I think that's one of the things that's going to make ultimately this championship so exciting, because none of us know where each bike is going to be better, because it all depends, of course, on the pilot.
Consistency is going to be the key, though, isn't it? Because even if you are perhaps at a circuit where, let's say, we go to a circuit where the Kawasaki's aren't quite as strong as the Aprilias, for example, then the Kawasaki riders like Farah and Ogden might just have to say, well, this weekend I just need to accept that I need to take this amount of points.
Yeah, I mean, the trick will be, but of course you try telling the kid this, the trick will be, this is close, look at this slipstreaming, look, oh, lovely jubbly. That's the way to do it.
Up the inside. Dear, took way too much curve there, Scott Ogden. Way too much curve, and Scott Ogden is absolutely furious, punching his tank there.
I think he's seen too much of that at MotoGP.
I don't know if he's upset with himself or he's upset with Matt Bauer. Either way, that didn't really go well for him, and so he's got a lot of catching up to do now to try and find a way back past Matt Bauer. Further back, here is Jake Clark on the Aprilia 450R. Jody Fieldhouse, number 18, is closing. Jake Clark, number 13, from Bromsgrove. Jody from Whirl on that Go Pink Racing Aprilia 450R. Here is number 87. It's Jake Hopper, up ahead of that KTM of Jake Aldridge.
Yeah, as I was saying, you know, the trick is to not let your head go down if you're a front runner and you're not winning one weekend. You know, discretion is the better part of valor. Take a bag full of points. But it's very difficult, isn't it? You're a youngster, you want to win, you love being out there, and I'll tell you what, look, they are still going at it. Hammer and tongue here, Steve.
Yeah, well, it's good to see, because Scott Ogden, it looked like that battle was lost after he made a mistake going into the foggy S's, but he's closed the gap again. Maybe that's put a bit of fire in his belly. I don't think he's going to attempt the move into Coppers, but he is all over the back of Matt Bauer now. Here's your race leader. Quite happy cruising along at this moment in time. 5-6 seconds ahead, in fact more than that, ahead of these guys. Here we go then. Is he going to have another attempt? No, he thinks better of it this time. But if he gets the speed through off, notice that Ogden has got some decent drive coming out of the chicane there. So Farah still leads. What about the boys in second? Ogden and Bauer. Can Ogden find a way past Bauer in the closing stages of this Thundersport Superteen race? How crucial would it be for him? He's probably going to lose his championship lead, so he'll want to finish in second place. And that way, of course, he'll only lose 5 points to the race leader, Farah. Onto the start-finish straight we go. Great drive there out of the final corner Gorards from Ogden. He now gets into the slipstream, he pulls out. Again, I mean, that's just your evidence for you that there's not a... He got the better drive, and yet the Aprilia held its own. Down the start-finish straight. Now, around Redgate Corner. Oh, Ogden there using a bit too much of the circuit. Trying to find a way past, and he's waving his arms about the back marker as well. I'll tell you what, it looks like we've got a proper character on our hands here in Scott Ogden. Been watching quite a bit of Cal Crutchlow, I think.
Oh dear, so funny.
There's Franco Bourne. He has made it out on circuit despite bogging at the start. We presume anyway. Now then, let's see what Ogden can do here. Great move that. Ogden does find a way past Matt Bauer, and he moves up into second place. And then he has a good look over his shoulder as well. Probably hashtag angry face under that helmet at the moment. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll have more of this as the season goes on. Scott Ogden obviously not willing to take many prisoners.
No, I mean, he was not looking happy yesterday at not having a win. You know, he wants to win, the boy does. There's nothing wrong with that, I guess. But you know what happens when you get angry on circuit, you know, often things go wrong. Although saying that...
Well, they can go right as well.
Yeah, you mentioned fire in the belly.
Some riders do need... This is one thing that he is going to have to eradicate from his game as the last lap flag goes out. You can transfer aggression and the fire in your belly to something positive on circuit. It can get the best out of you. But twice there within the space of, 4 corners looking over your shoulder? It ain't going to help. All you are doing is losing time. And I sometimes wonder, after a rider's just overtaken another rider, what are they actually expecting to see when they look over their shoulder? And again, really, really bizarre. Yeah, just bizarre. It's something... A number of young riders, when they first started out in Superteens with us in 08 and 09, did it. And eventually they snapped out of it. The likes of Fraser Rogers, Wayne Ryan, they are all guilty of doing it. They snapped out of it in the end. Scott Ogden needs to get that out of his game immediately.
Who was the famous rider who used to? Was it Foray who used to do
Yes,
that?
yeah, a
he
lot.
was a bit. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, Fabien Foray, an awful lot. And of course, what that usually ended up meaning was that he was having to then get his gloves off in the final stages of races.
But it's, you know, I mean, time and time again, they lose a placement when they look back. And it's a little bit like the curse of the jump start, isn't it? You know, do you know there's a phenomenal 80% of the riders that jump the start don't finish the race, they crash.
Yeah, psychologically it plays a big part. The thing is with the sitting up and looking round, it's about aerodynamics as much as anything else as well. You think over in Moto 3, Joan Mir is famous for getting tucked in at every opportunity. They say it's worth 2 or 3 tenths a lap. Well, imagine how much you're losing by sitting up and looking over your shoulder.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
So anyway, it doesn't matter because Ogden looks like he might just be on for second place here. And even race, we look further ahead here. Farah's even having a look over his shoulder now to find out where the rest of the opposition is. He wins this one. It's a double victory for Charlie Farah. Sorry, no, it's not. Rangeley won race 1. I'm getting confused now. But hey, he's taken the maximum amount of points available to him in terms of the regulars in the championship. He looks delighted with that as well. And that should give him the championship lead. In the background, it is a second place for Scott Ogden. Third goes to Matt Bauer. Fourth place goes to Jody Fieldhouse. And fifth for Jake Clark. Liam Bassett was sixth on his KTM 390. Take a look at the top 3 on the podium then. There you see Farah, Ogden and Bauer. And the championship standings. Farah does take the lead of the championship. 21 points he has over fellow Kawasaki rider Scott Ogden. Matt Bauer is third. He moves ahead of Franco Bourne. 7 points clear of him. Jake Clark down there in fifth and Jody Fieldhouse sixth. That's it from us here at Donington Park. You can rejoin us and the Thundersport Superteens again in the East Anglia, Snetterton, Norfolk next up.